truly everywhere. It's very impressive.
Really everywhere.
Hello, Vlad Mistai. Mitstai?
Gone.
Well, maybe they're flipping through accounts to figure out which one they actually want to show up with.
It's like changing hats.
Yeah, I mean, I've been known to do that. I have many Discord accounts.
How are you doing this morning, Gar?
Sorry, struggling to find my unmute button. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Doing good. I had a kid who was up late, sick, tragically, but is fine now, of course. So he has to be home, and he'll be very high energy and jumping all over the place, even though we're forced to keep him at home. So
I can definitely empathize with that. Winter is a pain, but
I know.
although hang on, it's summer.
It's summer here. Yeah, it's just kids being gross.
Yeah.
Little decisions.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Here's Squirrel, who's one of our grant recipients with Zec Hub, right?
Yes, I believe so. Which I'm very excited to see what the results are there. I think Dismod might be working on that as well. Dismod's quite involved.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Feel free to tell us in the chat.
Cool. All right.
Are you representing Labs, Gar?
Sorry, say that again.
Are you representing Labs? Are you the?
I am.
Fabulous.
Amber, I do apologize. I also didn't see whether or not you had a list of things you wanted to specifically cover today. I have my own plan, but I wanted to see.
Yeah. All that we've been tagged is that Gar wanted to ask about feedback, and I just want to give a shout out to grant recipients, which we'll be officially announcing, but we can obviously start talking about it since they're being onboarded.
Yes, very exciting. Cool. Do you want to go ahead and take care of that first, and then we can move on to what I have that sort of has materialized as an agenda?
Absolutely. Give me just a sec. All right, we are live on Twitter. That's fabulous. We have more people on Twitter watching, which is A-okay. If you're on Twitter, please come into the Discord. That's where you can interact with us and talk and ask all kinds of questions, give direct feedback, although you can always comment on Twitter. We're paying attention everywhere. So, but in terms of like hanging out with us in this moment, please come to the Discord, and that's what we're doing for now. So here we are. Yeah, so just giving a shout out to the accepted Eclipse microgrants, which is the first ever round that we've had of that. Oh, sorry, let me like back up and be like, hey, wwho are we? What are we doing? I realize that we always kind of jump in and then like that might be
and you never
know. Like obviously you are in the Penumbra protocol Discord. That is who we are. Or that is what we are doing, I should say. We are generally in these calls are the representatives of two different orgs. So we have Penumbra Labs, who are the developers of the incredible Penumbra protocol. We have Gar in this corner. We have Gar, who's doing who will be speaking on that side of things, updates in that space. And then we also have Radiant Commons, which is the go-to-market organization for Penumbra, doing marketing and community hello, and design and lots of other things that crop up as they crop up. And so this is just a space where we share updates on what's going on. Things change really quickly, and we always have a lot of stuff in the works. So this is where we get to share it with you all and ideally hear from you as well. Get feedback. Please ask questions. Please let us know what you're thinking in the chat. We have some mods in here as well. And that is what we're doing. Did I forget anything?
I don't think so. Do you want to, was that your grant announcement or did you want to get specific?
I was going to get specific. So okay. We will have materials going out about each of our grantees, but we're very excited to award 4 grants in this first round. And we're very excited to get the submissions we did. We had lots of really thoughtful applications, and we were looking for both things on the, say, educational material side, along with developers So we have Mahita, who's not here, but he's often around. I think it's he, and he's making a Pax wallet, a tax reporting integration tool called Akku, which is very exciting and will be very helpful and useful for Penumbra users. We have Ava, who's building a Penumbra MCP, a server, in order to help. My understanding is it's helping AI agents like integrating work with Penumbra, which would be very cool. Very exciting. And we have some educational materials on their way from Zech Hub. We have a couple of representatives of them here. Feel free to say hi and tell us more in the chat if you'd like about Zech Hub. And then we have longtime fave Tokidoki, who's around the Discord a lot, and he'll be writing sort of like Penumbra 101 primers. So we're very excited to have y'all adding to this incredible ecosystem. Yeah, we like them. We also like Tokidoki.
Yeah, we also like Tokidoki.
Plus, his name is very fun to say.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like all of the Zcash people like have pretty great handles. Because the thing I've noticed when it comes to Zcash people is like y'all are like pretty like it's like your advantage kind of like thinkers when it comes to coming up with good handles. So I want to give y'all credit where it's due because I know y'all have been around for a long time in the space, and I've seen your names across multiple projects as well. So
yep.
And it makes me wonder if maybe like Mouse, that like one person who pops up here and there throughout Discord, is actually like secretly a Zcash person, because also that's a handle. I'm like, that's Zcash coded somehow. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Okay, well, really exciting developments, obviously, seeing that. So I want to run down a little bit, obviously, as Amber mentioned. We have two entities here. We have Penumbra Labs, which has developed the software that's being run by the validators on the network, and then we have Radiant Commons, which is seeking to like facilitate community and grow the user base for the protocol. But the partnership between those two organizations is continuously improving the experience on the basis of user interaction with the protocol. And that's been an enormously instrumental part of what has been seen as like what has been built upon as like product improvements with Penumbra, and that's not going to change anytime soon. So the idea should be to continue expanding like community-oriented product testing, which is something that Amber's working on right now. And we really constantly appreciate everyone's feedback. One thing I'll say right now, just up front, is while it's helpful to come to us when you're having an issue, like as in, you know, a syncing issue, maybe some sort of bug, it's also extremely helpful to come in here and give feedback about stuff that are like quality of life improvements. These sorts of things will like get filtered up and could lead to product development, could result in actual influences over what it is that the interaction with the software looks like. Radiant Commons gathers all that information, and we present it to developers of applications on the Penumbra protocol. Penumbra Labs is one of those entities. For now, it's like the major one, but there are not the only one around, right? So we have actually seen it happen in this very call, like people just sharing like quality of life things, and it results in stuff that actually gets implemented on the product level. So did want to just add that. I'm going to turn off my like FaceTime reactions. Cool. Okay, so I just wanted to say that up front. Always extremely appreciative of a community that offers feedback on what it's like to use the protocol that has been made that has been put at everyone's disposal. We've seen some like pretty interesting increases in organic reach, and that excites me. So I just wanted to preface that. It seems like people are getting more and more enthused about the product, and a lot of this is thanks to Penumbra Labs' hard work on making sure that the product is easier, that the protocol is easier to use, and that the products built on top of it are accessible. So a little bit of what we need to start with, what I'm kind of wanting to run through here today. I want to spend a little bit of time kind of talking about like the product journey up to this point, what some possible next steps might be in terms of like being an interface layer. So I'll explain what that means when we get to it. How we could see Penumbra evolve in the future as both an ecosystem and a product, and then give Gar some time to, like, if you'd like to, Gar, because we didn't preface this, but like I'd love to see you do it. Show off a little bit around the current state of the DEX. I think is a really good idea to like show that every week, and possibly like show off any like kind of hints and or previews that are being worked on internally that will eventually make their way to the DEX. There are some things, obviously at your discretion that you're willing to show, those that you're not willing to show. But that would be very cool. So that we can spend about like 10, 20 minutes on that. And then really just like want to emphasize again what we're talking about when we say like creating with a community of users. And then we can leave some time at the end there for some discussion and getting comments from people. That's what I would like to see. So first of all, let's talk about like how we got to where we are. I think it's always good to have a community call re-emphasize this, right? And as time goes by, it's going to get better. It's going to be a shorter and shorter story, but like it's always good practice to like remind people of how Penumbra came to the present, and from like either the vaunted future or the past huge amount of effort that it took to summon Penumbra into being, really understanding what that meant. And Penumbra has been a product of 3 years of continuous development on the part of the Penumbra Labs protocol. It had over 70 test nets with a number of committed validators and developers in the community, both working at Penumbra Labs and not bringing it into being, as well as an enormous amount of effort on the part of community members who showed up to summon Penumbra into being, like giving it the initial randomness and noise in the form of summoning, and understanding that like that was done out of a will to see this protocol come into being. And because of that, like we are where we are right now. So when the protocol launched in July of last year, and the Genesis block was picked up by a number of validators who kicked the network into motion, we went from having this software be sort of a proof of concept and an effort to build something that could be meaningful and could be used by people, into something that people could actually interact with. And that took everything that preceded that point, all of the ideas, all of the hard work, all of the emphasis put on creating like a protocol that is ideal for people's interaction, both within and without a privacy-oriented ecosystem, and really putting into people's hands. And we learned a lot from that moment happening. The network has been live since July, and there have been continued improvements since then. But the first thing that was really revealed was like, oh crap, this thing's not easy to use. So what happened was the protocol launched, and while all of the protocol architecture was made available to everyone, the experience of interacting with it and improving that needed a lot of work. And importantly and meaningfully, that initial stage was oriented more around the most important table stakes requirements of what it means to build a decentralized network, which is like pushing for the decentralization up front. You have trade-offs when you do that kind of effort, and taking that sort of trade-off so that you can get to where we are now was an important part of the process. So the proliferation of different front ends that were made accessible to people at the beginning of the network that community members were willing to host became what people used to access Penumbra, and those initial users really became the leading population who made it possible to see how the product could be iterated upon so that the product experience got better over time. So that the protocol could be built upon so that the product experience could be better used. So there were a lot of missteps on the way through that. And I think this is like one of the things that's very difficult to appreciate sometimes in anticipation of launching something that you want people to use, is that you don't actually know what it's going to be like to use it, or you don't know how people are going to respond to it until it's actually out there. And broadly speaking, like the reactions were understanding that the underlying architecture was really sound, but like interacting with the protocol itself was quite difficult. And since then, there's been a massive amount of improvement in what this experience has looked like. Kind of looking at the chronology of all the things that have been improved. One of the first things that was like really iterated upon was understanding that one of the most annoying parts of interacting with Penumbra was tied to one of the most important qualities of how to interact with it as a user, which is sync speeds, right? Being able to actually sync the chain locally. And based off of feedback from people interacting with the chain using Prax Wallet, which is currently the only wallet, like a software wallet browser extension that can interact with the network. Margulis, who is in the audience right now, put a ton of work into optimizing what that actually looks like to have improved. And since then, no one's talked about it anymore. It's like occasionally an issue, but the sync speeds have improved so much so that is not actually a primary user complaint. Feedback on the basis of syncing has kind of gone away. The next most important part to really focus on, in addition to a bunch of other quality of life improvements, was to really make it so that people could interact with the DEX. Having a swap feature inside of the front ends that were being hosted by the community was one step in that direction. But it didn't really reveal the internal architecture that was offered by the software itself. Yeah, exactly, Ember. I appreciate you pointing that out in the comments as well. Like, it's great to see, because like it can be like, oh, or no, is no one actually like using it? But no, it's actually, there have been substantive improvements on the software, and everyone has interacted with that and sees it positively. So the next most important part was really to reveal the DEX architecture to a community of users, so that like that product experience could be so that part of the protocol could really be battle tested by communities, the community being able to interact with it. And this is what the Penumbra Labs team really focused on over the last, like, more or less like 3 to 5 months. And the initial attempt at having a decentralized exchange interface revealed very quickly that this is something that needed a lot of attention, which is why the Penumbra Labs team focused on it so much. And with that, we moved to the point where we saw, like, at least between us and with the Penumbra Labs team, we saw that there was evidence that they were going to be building something really great. And that was what brought us into the announcement of Veil. We saw these previews, we shared them with the community, people reacted to them, people used the alpha versions. We brought people in through beta programs to see what to work through what a lot of those interactions would look like. And Veil was brought to the fore. Now we're at a place where we have the decentralized exchange available to the public, and we're starting to see how people actually use it. And this is revealing how to improve the product, as well as like fitting itself into this narrative of ensuring that this is an ecosystem that is focused on the utility of the software to those that want its advantages. So understanding this, like, there's also a lot of things that I think have been made apparent, which is like those who understand enough about decentralized exchanges can appreciate Penumbra for its advances. But one of the difficult problem areas is actually that like it's not easily understood by people, meaning people who don't have prior knowledge. Like what kinds of advantages and what kinds of improvements have come along with this DEX. And that's where a lot of the product experience has been focused. And that's what the Penumbra Labs team has been iterating upon, is like, how do you really reveal the utility of Penumbra as a decentralized exchange, as something that is like a very user-focused tool? And then the next step beyond that, really, to ask is like, what are the implications of finally having the ideal environment to trade in and to hold your assets in, to gain the benefits of privacy, and also to ensure that you have any asset you're looking looking for within the realm of that privacy. So just understanding everything that has brought us up to this point has been that there has been a product journey that has been extremely focused on a community of users and committed to the idea of using user feedback and using community feedback to iterate on this product up into the point where like the intention of the product is specifically to have the best possible user experience for utilizing technology that is an imperative in an otherwise public blockchain ecosystem, universe. That's a good way of putting it. So this takes us to looking at what can happen next. And this is like a little bit of what I want to talk about, is asking, what does it mean? What are the implications that come from having privacy software that is deeply focused on user experience and doesn't make the trade-off of, yes, you have privacy, but now you have to deal with a lot of difficulty. And while that Rubicon has not necessarily been fully crossed as an ecosystem for Penumbra, it is steadily becoming something that will iterate toward that goal. But what we really need to start doing is thinking beyond that point. And what's necessary in order to think beyond that point is to assess and examine the implications of what it means to have this good user experience and to be connected to an interchain world. So with that, I want to speak a little bit more to this idea of what it means to be an interface layer, or what it would mean to be this like user experience layer, and what some of the implications could be from the long run of that. If Penumbra can be situated as being the ideal place for you to hold your assets and the ideal place to find any asset you're looking for, it's also the ideal place for any user to start from. So what does that mean? It means that Penumbra should be the ideal home for interacting with all the rest of blockchain ecosystems. It means that you should start within Penumbra and then go and interact with anything else, because your privacy starts with where you are, where you feel most at home, where you feel the safest. And if you want to move assets to another ecosystem, since there is a decentralized exchange at the center of the ecosystem, there is also the potential for people to be able to find what they need before they go where they're going. So the implications of this, I think, are pretty huge. It's like understanding that it's not just about having a domain where you can, hold your assets and gain privacy, and also a domain where you have an internal economy that allows you to find the assets you need and to, move with your changing agency of the kinds of decisions that you want to make, but also that gives you the freedom to interact from from the level of you as a user taking your privacy with you wherever you're going, and then wanting to come home. So with that, understanding that Penumbra could act as a unifying interface layer for connecting to other chains feels like a really strong vision to start moving toward. And it's something that we've been speaking about a little bit across the community, and I think is what we're sort of settling on as being a vision for what the implication space around what Penumbra can be in the future. For it to be a general privacy layer, it's to understand that a general privacy layer actually also means the ideal home for your assets. And it means starting from that place whenever you go do anything else, because you don't let strangers into your home is like a good way of looking at it, right? You have to trust someone before you let them in. And whenever you leave home, the ideal place you want to come back to is back to your own home. And with Penumbra's privacy guarantees, as well as like an ideal user experience, it becomes the ideal place for you to feel at home. So just as the modern web browser transformed how people interact with the internet, the goal for Penumbra should be to transform how people interact with an internet of blockchains. And that is the current working vision for where Penumbra can go. So it becomes a question from that point to kind of ask, what are the intermediate steps between where Penumbra is right now, the improvement of the user experience, the improvement of the internal economy and the privacy set, to this point where Penumbra is an ideal layer to interact with other blockchains. Like, how do we get to that eventual vision? Because we're not going to get there tomorrow. We're not going to get there next month. It takes a while to get to this point. But the proof of concept that we start with is what gets us to, thanks to Snod. The proof of concept that we start with is what gives us the basis, the initial conditions that ensure that outcome. And that's what we have to iterate upon. So the important next steps that I really want to share with everyone when it comes to what Penumbra can move toward in the immediate term is there has to be a continuous and a continuous expansion into other territories. And this is something that's happening right now. We have the connection to Stride. Maybe some of you noticed there's also a connection to Axelar as a network, which means that there is potential for having EVM assets within Penumbra and assets from any chain that Axelar is connected to. So being able to explore the implication space of the maximal number of connections to Penumbra as sort of a home for your crypto also requires having the ability to leave and the ability to come in from any ecosystem that's connected. So in the intermediate term, one of the main goals of Penumbra as an ecosystem is to explore maximally connecting to as many ecosystems as possible. Now that there's an economy that people can interact with, and the ideal DEX that people can use when they're within this economy, there's also an imperative to expand it maximally to as many ecosystems as possible. So then it becomes like, what's the next step beyond that? So great, we connect to a lot of other networks. Being able to provide this kind of improvement means that we are also strengthening the user experience for all of these other protocols, because they can start with Penumbra and then move to these other protocols. Utilize their services, and then come back to Penumbra, come back home. So what comes after this? Once you've connected to a bunch of other ecosystems and you've offered the guarantees of Penumbra as both the ideal interface layer, in addition to the ideal economy. Well, from that point forward, you start seeing that there is kind of this obligate tendency that can come from there when it comes to new networks, or when it comes to modular ecosystems, where treating Penumbra as an interface layer means that as we continue to develop blockchain architecture and have these interdependencies between different kinds of layers of blockchains, Penumbra also acts as the ideal environment to start from when interacting with those. So a good example of this would be interacting with an ecosystem like Celestia or any other rollup ecosystem, where as app chains get launched as rollups, so long as they're IBC compatible, but not exclusively if they are IBC compatible, people still start with Penumbra, operate within those ecosystems, and then come back to Penumbra in order to preserve their privacy. And this, to me, feels like another level of implication to get to this next layer. Additionally, the architecture that Penumbra is based on is open source code, which means that other people can build their own privacy ecosystems on the architecture that's made available to Penumbra. What does this require? What this requires is the ability to develop with pieces of Penumbra architecture, which means that another very important step in the future of developing Penumbra as an ecosystem is offering a developer journey. And right now, the developer journey is expanding developer utility of the protocol to people. And this is an imperative that is going to be undertaken very soon. And people can expect both community updates as well as like actual developer experience improvements on how to do that. And what I'm speaking about here is that we can expect an incoming Penumbra SDK or something of that sort. And then that should offer people the ability to build with Penumbra parts, either to interact directly with Penumbra, to build Penumbra applications that interact with Penumbra, or maybe to build their own privacy chains, their own private rollups that settle down to other ecosystems, but maintain the guarantees of interacting privately with Penumbra. So understanding this means that our current time where we are right now is just trying to get this to a place where users feel comfortable interacting with a private environment, but putting the emphasis less on privacy and more on user experience, so that you don't experience the trade-off of having to gain privacy and then lose a good user experience. Penumbra, the protocol, put all of its emphasis on privacy and ensuring that privacy is a part of the protocol from the ground up. Penumbra, the product, is focused on becoming the best possible user experience. And understanding the connection between those two environments is what gives us the implication space to expand into other ecosystems, offer this privacy to other ecosystems, become an interface layer, and potentially spur on the expansion of private architecture from this point out. So from here, I want to just like bring us back down to gravity into where we are right now, instead of getting out of the implication space that I'm very excited about, and give Gar some time here, ZKPM, some time here to like maybe demo a little bit of where Veil, the decentralized exchange experience, is at its current moment, and then show off some advantages that are in the service of user experience. Would you be open to doing that right now, Gar? You're muted.
Always, every time. Yes, I'd love to do that.
Great.
And thank you for.
Okay, thank you so much, Gar.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing all of that, Park. It's such an inspiring vision, and it's such an inspiring mission. And I love that we're sharing it like early and often with our community. It's I'm still pretty new here, but it's just really, I just love being part of, there. So, with that said, I have shared my screen on Discord before, so let's. Okay, I'm gonna have to probably quit Discord to give it. Yeah,
that's all right. I can speak ad nauseum. I'm very good at this. As we wait for you to come back.
Okay, thank you.
One thing that I did want to point out, though, and this is not me just rattling on for the sake of it, is that Penumbra as an ecosystem will always maintain that it is the community of users who will inform the growth of the protocol itself. And so I really want to like double click on that and doubly emphasize the fact that those of you who are like in this like community call, listening to this vision, hearing this initial vision, those of you that are on X listening to this maybe for the first time, maybe for the second time, or like just hearing it, like we want feedback on this sort of vision. So with that, I also want to have everyone understand and expect that there will be some form of this vision shared on the part of Radiant, most likely in the forum. And I really want to encourage you all to comment on it and help us develop it into something that is possible. The adjacent possible is only achieved through belief. And what that means is that having a community of people who believe in any set of adjacent realities is what's necessary to actually materialize that. And so having people comment on it and develop it, I think is going to be incredibly important. I see Gar back in the audience. Ember, if you want to get them back on stage. Oh my God, is TK an Android developer? I'm just kidding.
Working?
Oh, you're muted, oddly. Oh, no, now we can hear you. Go ahead. You're good.
Sorry, just
anything to scare you.
Update. Just Discord had to download and install. Okay, let's share the screen.
Yep.
Do this one. Okay. How's that looking?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is Veil, and as Park did a great job of describing this. This is, I guess the premier way now to interact with the Penumbra protocol. So what I wanted to do first of all is show you all where we stand today, some of the cool features that exist, and then as Mark mentioned, go into sharing some of the new things that you will be seeing very soon. So I'll start us on the Explore page here. So essentially what you're obviously seeing here is the state of the DEX. So we're looking at things like the total trading volume. Really interesting, I think, here that the largest trading pair right now is the TIA USDC pair. I think as Park mentioned, there's some really interesting synergies with the TIA ecosystem, and it's interesting to see that volume there. But this is nothing new for a DEX. We can take a look at the various trading pairs and what the price, the liquidity, and the volume is for each of them. I've got my Prax wallet connected here, so you can see my portfolio. I'm going to talk a little bit more about portfolio when we get to what's coming next, because that's going to be really exciting. But the meat of the DEX experience is obviously your trading interface. It's going to look pretty familiar to anybody who's used a DEX or even a centralized exchange in the past. We're looking at the USDC pair, and you have your market and limit orders, as I'm sure you're all familiar with. But I wanted to call your attention to a couple of cool things here. So first of all, what you will see is the route book, as distinct from an order book that you might see on any. For the USDC pair, you're seeing executions on that pair. What's really cool about this is, like, first of all, let's take a look at this. First of all, is this big enough for everyone to be able to read this text?
Yeah, I can read it. Maybe I'll wait for reaction from the crowd to see if there's anyone who's having any issues. But I think it looks good.
Okay, so first let's look at this execution here. You've got the USDC to swap, direct swap, nothing special there. But when you start to look at these ones with hops in them, this is where you really dig into like the cool stuff that's operating under the hood. So what the DEX is doing here is that it's aggregating liquidity over all of the various trading pairs that we have in the DEX in order to give the user or the trader the best possible price for that liquidity or for that swap. So what's happening is that rather than going directly from USDC to it's hopping from USDC to USDY to based on the liquidity that has been provided in the DEX to provide that trader with the best possible price for that execution. So very specifically unique to the Penumbra protocol, and one of the really special features of what we've built. And then second thing I'd like to draw your attention to is the range liquidity tool. So this is a little bit complex, and it took me a little while to get my head around it when I started it. And we'll talk a little bit more about what we're working on in terms of user guides and help material. But essentially what you're doing with the range liquidity tool here is you're picking a liquidity target for the pair that you're examining and setting an upper and lower price band. Price band. So the upper and lower price at which you're willing to provide liquidity for that pair. We make it pretty convenient to choose the market rate plus or minus 2 to 15%. You also then set your fee tier for the liquidity that you want to provide, which obviously will play a part in how likely your liquidity is to be executed upon. And then what happens is that you pick a number of positions to open. So the maximum in the slider with the slider here is 15. And so what would happen here is that once you go to open those positions, 15 positions will be opened under your positions here, equally spaced between your upper and lower price band. So it's a really kind of convenient way for you to execute on a strategy that you have kind of formulated based on what you see with regards to the liquidity that is currently in the DEX and what is being executed upon. And it just gives you a really convenient way of opening a number of positions to capture executions on that liquidity. I mentioned user guides and help. That's something that I think we really need to index on in the coming weeks and months. We are looking at doing that in three different ways. First of all, we have obviously some tooltips here that will give you a little bit of information on what you're seeing, but not a whole lot of depth. We want to start adding to those and making sure that it's really clear to users what it is they're getting themselves into, I suppose, when they're using any of these tools, given that it's people's hard-earned money. We want to make sure they know exactly what's going on here. We will be also introducing for each of these panes, so across Explore, Portfolio, Trade, and Inspect, such that you can interact with these interfaces while having help information right there in the DEX experience. And then lastly, authoring and publishing really in-depth user guides, getting started guides that will guide users through any experience that they may wish to go through on Veil. So that is in the works. What I would also like to talk about quickly is some sneak peeks of what is coming next.
Exciting.
Oh man, I have so many windows. I should really have prepared for this. But
It's okay.
Okay, so the first one. Yeah, can I do like a training program or something on how to present in Discord? Okay, so what you're seeing here is kind of some you could say some low stakes improvements to the DEX, but something I'm super excited about because Veil is quite unique in certain ways, and because we want to make sure that new users landing at Veil have the best possible experience with their first experience. We wanted to make sure that there is a very clear onboarding guide for new users arriving on Veil. And that's what you're seeing here. That will live on, this is correct, this is obviously outdated, but it will actually live in the portfolio page. So what we're doing here is guiding new users through the 4 steps that will take them from, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm new here, to having a funded Prax wallet that will then allow you to interact with all of the unique features of Veil. So installing and connecting your Prax wallet, connecting an existing Cosmos wallet, and moving funds from that Cosmos wallet into the shielded pool, such that you have them in your Prax wallet ready to interact with the DEX. We'll be doing this in a phased approach. It will start as more of a static guide. It will become more dynamic. It will understand which of these steps you have gone through. And then most excitingly, I need to share one more window to do this. It will eventually live on our updated portfolio page. So this is something that's really cool. Right now, the user experience for, as I said, getting to the point where you have a funded Prax wallet within that is connected to Veil, you kind of need to come out of the Veil experience and interact with Minifund, which is another way to interact with your with the Penumbra protocol and with your wallet. That's where you would currently shield assets from a Cosmos wallet or any wallet really into the shielded pool. What we'll be doing is deploying a user experience that lets you do that from directly within Veil. And that is, I think, a huge win as it pertains to like the user experience and just being able to have a really congruent user experience in one user interface. So what will happen is that right from here within your portfolio, you'll connect your Prax wallet, you'll connect a Cosmos wallet, and all of a sudden what you'll be seeing here is your entire portfolio across those 2 wallets, both in your Cosmos wallet, which is unshielded, and in your Prax wallet, which is shielded. You'll see those balances for each of your assets underneath here. And suddenly it becomes super, super easy to just click shield on one of your assets that exists in your Cosmos wallet, immediately see it come across to your Prax wallet and have that really congruent experience in one user interface, while still being, within Veil and being able to interact with Veil and with those funds in your Prax wallet. So this is something I'm really excited about. We'll see that happening next in the coming weeks.
It's extremely exciting. So cool.
Yeah, I love this. So that being said, another thing that I just wanted to cover while I have everyone's attention, we couldn't provide the seamless, frictionless, satisfying user experience that we want to provide without all of your help. Like, you are our users, you are the most important people to us, and we want to hear from you. So Park at the top of the call mentioned that we're more than happy to hear your feedback and your requests in calls such as these. But I want to start putting some more structure and how we gather that feedback and how we really tightly communicate with our community. So this will take a more formal format in the future. But for right now, what I'd love to do is extend the invitation to everyone who's on the call, both in Discord and on Twitter. Just give me a hands up or something in the chat if you would be willing for me to reach out to you to participate in some amount of user research, and that would take the form of giving me one-to-one feedback about what you like and don't like about the product, but also getting even more sneak peeks on things that we're working on, such that I'm not designing in a vacuum, and we're not designing in a vacuum, and making sure that what we're building is exactly what you need. So yeah, just pop it in the chat. I will come back. Awesome, I'm seeing them come in already. I'll check Twitter also after this. And last thing to say here, we talk a lot about privacy. I will interact with you however you would like me to, and however much you want to share. And that I'm not asking anyone to get on.
What you're after is the fact, not necessarily someone's identity. So
exactly right. That was actually quite confusing to me when I started, because I'm like, okay, I'm product manager. I survive on interacting with users, but a lot of these people want to be private. So how do I do my job? But it's becoming more.
Yeah.
So awesome seeing those come through. So yeah, I will reach out to anyone who wants to participate. As I said, it would probably be pretty casual, but looking forward to interacting with everyone. Thank you all.
I also want to emphasize that we do have a beta program, but there is something else in the works that will, in the long run, to Gar's point, cater to the specific purpose of like having a user research group. So for the meantime, let's definitely, I encourage everyone to reach out and to offer their both their suggestions and their will to contribute to GAR improving the product on a one-to-one basis. There are going to be even more opportunities for people to interact with it, and it may even be possible, some of the best ideas come from community members seeing possibilities we haven't actually considered, and importantly, working with you all if it substantively improves the product, or as it is substantively improves the product, there will be dividends that come from that interaction, both through the product experience and then also just like being a community member who is contributing to this product. Because inherently that is going to be what buoys up this like long-term vision, is having people really believe in the software that they're interacting with, and its long-lived potential. So yeah, Gar, thank you so much for doing that demo. It was really, it's very cool to see kind of the current state of things, that portfolio page, what like how it could play out, and then just really understanding. I mean, especially like I also, just before I go on and wax poetic again, like specifically being able to like see that understanding of like what part of your assets are public and what part of your assets are private, because like really having an understanding of how much you're revealing to just the whole world to see who you are, and being able to understand that you can make a choice there, and you don't need to have all these assets out in public. I think is going to be a very positive product experience that like makes people feel like they want to make sure that their home is safe. So yeah, so from there, I do want to emphasize like that I really love that Gar close that out with saying like a community involvement, because I do also want to emphasize that on our part, as ecosystem leaders, as Radiant Commons, that having a product driven, like having a community driven product philosophy means we need to give you the tools as a community to be able to actually take part in what that journey looks like. So I want to reemphasize that the beta program will continue to be developed, and there will be other subsequent programs around beta interaction that will be offered to community members to take part in it. Roles that contribute in this way. And part of this is like, it's the way we build rapport with you all. And who knows, maybe some of that product offering, pays dividends in other ways. We'll have to see. So specifically, I also want to speak to the fact that you'll be able to soon, as users, I think part of the idea of having a community-driven protocol is that community members should also be able to contribute to all levels of what the protocol has to offer. So that includes liquidity. So one question that we have here is like, what if community members could help determine what assets receive emphasis on the part of the protocol? Like, what if there was like a way to offer incentives for that? And who knows? Like maybe something like that will come to pass. We might see just the beginning as a first step of seeing how community members can direct resources within the Penumbra ecosystem, and specifically offer incentives and signals in the direction of saying what it is that the Penumbra economy is interested in interacting with. So active participants in this will probably not just shape the future of the protocol, but there's the potential that maybe, as with the philosophy of most protocols, if you do work for the protocol, maybe something happens in return. So this is just something to say, like, pay close attention to this continuous iteration of the decentralized exchange, because maybe at some point in the near future, your participation will actually pay you for the work that you're doing. And it may come in the form of some sort of reward. It's something to pay attention to in the long term. So beyond that, understanding that the offering of having guild and being able to interact with elements of sort of testing out the product flows is something that Ember is really like pushing forward. Whether or not we commit to guild in the long term is like kind of a question. It's it's a tool that we have at our disposal, but mostly we just really want to create like the best possible experience for all of you to give feedback, but also to like really test out all aspects of the protocol. In addition to that, there is also an initiative from the Radiant Commons side to monitor continuously uptime of like all the connected channels as we continue to expand them. And with that, we do have on the horizon the potential for Radiant to hire a DevOps role. So right now, Radiant Commons is in interviews. We do have people who have been applying, but if you are someone who is out there who is interested in taking part in a DevOps role at Radiant Commons to ensure the health of the network and interact with validators, please do reach out. This is something that is still open as a role. We are optimistic we're going to find someone soon, but we're always willing to speak with new ecosystem members, especially people who already understand Penumbra's ecosystemic value and are bought into this like potential long-term vision of Penumbra as a utility layer. So one additional element that I know you'd spoken to, Ember, is like regular community workshops that will be kind of in the near future to tackle very specific challenges that may come up with the protocol, and also educate people. So this is something I want you all to understand is on the way and in development, and will be a part of the near future for Penumbra. So your voice really matters in all of these big picture decisions. And to Gar's point, right? A lot of this feedback does get implemented. It does get iterated upon, and your feedback is like necessary to making sure that there's a strong development from there. So yeah, I think from there, we have a little bit of time left. I'm willing to go over by a little bit, but I'd really love to hear from anyone who's out there. If you have any sort of feedback, if you're excited about the Penumbra vision, or if you have any questions along those lines. So as well as just like if you have ideas for like other things in community calls in the future that could be talked about, we're always open to those. I'm always going to emphasize the journey of Penumbra and like where we are and where things are, but I do also think it's really important to maybe get into the granular and gritty details between meetings and between different community calls as well. So maybe I have a comment from TK in here, right? First time the Cosmos ecosystem, so I'm trying to figure out how to
feedback happening right now.
Right now. Need for more documentation as a project. Totally agree with you, TK. And yes, your laptop CPU going to 100 every time you create a transaction. Hey, Margulis, you hear that? Someone's CPU is going to 100% when they try to build a transaction. No, I really appreciate that feedback. Yeah, it's the reason for that, TK. I'm not sure how far into the docs you have looked, but the reason that that's happening is that your device is generating a proof locally that is necessary to the privacy that you're getting on the network. That doesn't mean that you should just like accept that, right? Like this is the reason that we have a development team that's continuously trying to improve both the sync speeds and just the general user experience. But one of the special guarantees of the network is the fact that like privacy starts at the edges of the network where users interact with the network, and that's the reason there's such a user-focused vision. Is that if the user experience is as good as possible, there's an incentive for you to commit some of your CPU power to actually generating the proofs locally, but also giving you the guarantees that privacy is starting at home. So I appreciate your feedback there, TK. Do we have anything on Twitter, by the way?
Good question. Let's see.
Margulis,
No
sorry,
comments.
Okay, cool. Nothing, no comments?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Nope.
Margulis, just right quick, maybe sometime in the near future, we could actually have you talk about what proof generation looks like on Penumbra. I think that would be like a really valuable community call to just have you sort of talk about that. So I would really love to have you do that if that's something you're interested in doing. Several people are typing. Awesome. Thank you, Tal. Thank you, Margulis.
Did you have anything else, Scar, for the crew or for the record?
For the record.
No, I think that's it for
the record.
Privacy is gone. You are on record now.
Oh dear.
Well, now we know.
In that case, no, I don't have anything else.
Forever rest my peace.
Okay, it's awesome, amazing engagement, and we're really excited to.
Yeah.
This is great. Everyone should tell us their opinions all the time. Yeah. We would not get sick of it.
We're also very active on X. So if you have like comments that you want to make on X, and if you just come up later with an idea, that's another place that you can interact with both Radiant Commons and with Penumbra. And kind of our philosophy in a big way as an ecosystem is like working in public fosters a lot of like productivity in terms of the development of ideas. So highly encourage, if all you out there in the X world have commentary, please comment at Penumbra and talk about what's going on with your mind and what part of what this like idea of an implication space could be.
Amazing. Well, thank you all for your time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Totally.
You know, it's not off the table. In fact, I would say it's specifically currently on the table and in progress.
Yeah. There might be some courting going on. It's a flirtation.
Yeah, a flirtation with more privacy is more better. So
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you all so much for your time on
Thanks so much.
your very busy lives and participating, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Every other week is the cadence for this call. And yeah, see you around. Please keep hanging out in the Discord. Tell us about what's going on.
Join us next time for another episode of How Does Penumbra Work?
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Right,
Take care. Bye.